I think now makes for a good opportunity to discuss environmental variables, or shell variables. You may have noticed that there's some discrepancy with which I execute programs. For instance, if I'd like to run cat, all I have to do is type in cat. But if I would like to run my CPU runner program here, I can't just type in CPU runner.py. The shell complains that it can't find the command. Well, we know that the command is in our current directory, so why can't the shell find it? The reason is there are only certain directories through which the shell is looking for commands. Those directories are stored in an environmental variable called path. How do we see the path that it's looking through? We can use the command echo to echo the path back to us. Ordinarily, echo just takes a string and echoes it back to the terminal. But it can also echo back evaluated variables. So by convention, shell variables or environmental variables are uppercase. So we have path as our variable. The $sign has the shell expand this variable, so it retrieves the value of path. And echo will simply return that expanded value to the terminal. So here we can see what's contained in our path. Several directories. The shell looks through each of these directories one by one, going from left to right. The directories are delimited by colons here. The first directory that it comes upon that contains a command that was attempted to be executed, it runs it. If it can't find the command in any of these directories, it complains, as it did for CPU runner, command not found. Now we got around that by issuing the path to CPU runner, which was ./cpurunner.py, which means execute cpurunner.py, which is in our current directory. We also could have used the absolute path /home/chris/demo cpurunner.py to get to it. Well, what if we did want to execute programs that were in our current directory? How could we do that? Well, we can modify the path variable to contain this directory. So to modify the path variable, we set path equals, notice we don't add the $sign here because we don't want to expand the path, we don't want to evaluate it, we want to set it. But then we'll use the $sign here to evaluate the current path and expand that. Colon, period, let's not use period, let's use we can use period. So colon, period, this is going to add the current directory, so it'll look in the current directory, whatever directory that the shell user is currently in. So if I do this and echo the new path back, we'll see that my current directory is here in the list of the path. And now CPU runner should run from just issuing CPU runner. I don't have to issue a either relative or absolute path to it. And we can see that indeed it does. There are a couple of reasons why you don't want to add your current path or your current directory to the path, but the main reason is security. It's very possible that someone could put a script in your directory that's named something similar to a program you use frequently. For instance, someone could put a malicious script called cat in your current directory that would remove all the contents of your home directory, or even try and delete the entire computer starting from the root directory. And if you executed cat, you would cause that script to execute and completely ruin your system. So this is the reason why you don't typically want to include your current directory in the typical path. Well, so what other environmental variables are there? The answer is there are a lot. Well, let's take a look at some of the more helpful ones, perhaps. So the environmental variable shell, if I echo $shell, this echoes my preferred shell. So we can see my preferred shell is bash, which is what I'm currently running here. I could set it to something else. For instance, I could set it to dash by setting shell bin dash. And now if I echo my shell back, we can see that it's now dash. We can see what our home, the path to our home directory is by echoing home. We can see what our current directory is by echoing pwd. This is the same thing as if we just issued pwd. There are quite a few environmental variables, and I'll leave it up to you to explore them. But I just wanted you to be aware of how to find them and detect them and see their current values and set their values. We can set our own values too. We'll go ahead and show how to do that. So, for instance, I can set my favorite directory to, let's say, user share doc Python 2.4. And now, if I do cd $, my favorite directory, it will take me to user share doc Python 2.4. So it's done the expansion for us. So that's the basics of how to use the environmental variables and how to set your own.